Hi, my name is Abriana, also known as Black Girl Writing, also known as non-self-sabotage that much anymore. Okay, so hey you guys, it's been a minute since I did like a car video. I am at work. I'm actually on lunch, and I wanted to give you guys a quick update on where we are with our work in progress. So for the past 3 days, I have written consistently. So I have written chapters 2 and 3, and I'm going to tell you how it's been going. So chapter 2 was Roz's chapter. So you guys already know, starting off, I was a little bit apprehensive with his chapter 1 because I really didn't know how it was going to start off. I just had the one sentence of what I knew he was going to say. So I had that, and I was like, well, fuck, where can I go with that? So I kind of didn't know what I was going to do, but I was inspired to just write because I was like, you know, Monday I had a really good writing session. I want to continue it. And so I did. And how I did this, and what made me feel more connected with the story, because this really cool thing happened where I low-key started hearing Roz's voice in my head as I was going through the chapter. So what I did for Roz's chapter was, I did my whole night routine. If you guys seen my night routine before, I ate, showered, got my wine, went outside. I had the urge to write his chapter by hand. Why? I don't know, but I did. So I wrote out his entire chapter by hand, and I used the those yellow flip pad things, the big yellow ones. There's gonna be a picture right here. And I used that, and his chapter was a full 6 pages. And fun fact, Roz has a friend now, and his name is Enzo, so he's not just out here in this world by himself. So he does have a friend who he is connected with. And what I found really interesting with writing Roz's chapter, but mainly writing it by hand, the way I was able to like sit back and immerse myself into the writing, where I didn't know where I wanted this chapter to go. But like I said, I was hearing the start of his voice in my head. So I just went with what Roz said. So I talked about how his mother had passed, how his dad was kind of not in the picture. We all know his stuff. His abusive uncle and all that stuff. His friend, how he and his friends are connected in his day-to-day life. In some sentences, I think it was like for a paragraph or two, I was able to, I think, give more information about the city of Kmar and how the people in that city are kind of more or less are put between a rock and a hard place because they are, you know, separated from the capital, and it's because of the manifestors, right? And I started to talk about this. I started to talk about it. I have this whole idea of the registration for people who are manifestors. They have to, you know, they have to have their name signed up on this registry so people know you're a manifestor, you're not, right? Right. So I dove a little bit into that. I didn't start talking more about the politics. I think that's going to be in chapter 5 and 6 where I talk more about that, because you guys know the book is at the start of the re-election for minor King Iberi, right? But yeah, it was just really interesting to be in that zone where I was writing that chapter. It ended, I want to say, on a very dark note. Roz's chapter was actually, I don't know what I'm trying to say. Roz's chapter was actually pretty dark in comparison to Fanta's first chapter. His was kind of really fucking depressing writing that, actually. But, I mean, we're getting the start of his, you know, the start of his everyday life. And so he talks about his manifestation or you know, his magic, right? And his magic is where he can, what's the word I want to use? What's it? Astral projection. So, you know, he talks about, you know, the first time his soul, when he was 8 years old, that was the first time his soul left his body. And that's, you know, when he kind of found his mom, right, in the situation. Okay. So that's where his manifested powers came from. So I wrote about that, and I was like, oh shit, I wasn't expecting to like write about this, and I thought his powers were going to be something else, but I really like this. Like, it's pulling at my heartstrings. So that was Roz's chapter. I want to say I have a really good feeling that I probably wrote at least 2,000 words, because I wrote 6 full pages in the little notebook. It wasn't front to back, but it was, it was just the front page. And I wrote 6 pages, fully paragraphs, and I think I hit 2K. I'm gonna see, because Saturday is when I'm going to make another video of me writing out all of my chapters so far. I've just been doing I've done the last 2 by hand. I'm probably gonna do Roz's chapter tonight again. I feel like this is like future Abriana and past Abriana talking to you, so you might be a little confused. It's okay, I'm a little confused too. And the way I have it in my head when I have this video come out, it's gonna be before my Saturday video, but that's probably a lie. So let me just shut up and let me just give you guys the content and y'all will follow. Anyway, so the other night I wrote Fonta's chapter, her chapter 3, and that ended on not a funnier note. I introduced Fonta's sister, Femi. And Femi is like a cute pain in the ass. So Femi is 14 and Fonta is 16. So I brought the chapter back from how she had left the brothels, making this deal and doing all that stuff. And so we see her in her everyday life where she's working, in the artisan shop with her mom and sister. That's like her family job and all that stuff, right? And we get a glimpse at her mom since her father's disappearance. And actually, I'm more stoked to write Fonta's chapter 5 and 7. Did I say that right? Yeah, because I'm writing chapter 4 tonight. So I'm more excited to write Fonta's 5 and 7, because that's gonna be like the push of the bad stuff happening, and people are and her mother's gonna find out what she's doing and all that stuff. Yeah, it's gonna be in those 2 chapters. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but yeah. So Fonta's chapters last night went really good. I thought I was gonna introduce her friends, Armel and Severin, but I didn't. They'll probably be in another chapter coming up. With that chapter, I wrote again 6 full pages. I have a really strong feeling that I wrote above 2K. So I feel like, I'm hitting my goal, and I've been writing consistently like the past 3 days, like I said. And I felt like I ended that chapter on for me, it's an interesting note because I know what's happening next. I know what she has to do and like the shit she's gonna get into. So when I rewrite it and tweak it over the weekend, I might add a little bit more details about that. I feel like that will definitely be necessary. I again start to talk more about the re-election of the new minor king for the city. And how we have a manifester going against like a non-manifester. So we have Iberi and then Mandla. So, there's striving and standing for 2 different things. But while writing that, I was really interested, and I was fast forwarding / thinking, like, how am I going to get Roz and Fonta together? Like, how the hell are these 2 not going to be quote unquote working together, but how are they going to be involved where they're at the manor and they're trying to do their own personal shit that they are keeping from the other person, but they still need each other to get in and kind of work their plan out? Does that make sense? Hopefully it does. So while I was working through her chapter, I found out a way for my big bad guy to get introduced to Fonta. Now, I already know that he has the knowledge of these 2 that they don't know, that he knows that they exist, right? But I know that he knows that they don't know. And what they don't know is what they don't know. But I'm telling y'all, that's what I know, and now y'all know. Y'all see how I did that there? Anyway, so I figured out how to get my big bad guy into Fonta's storyline, and that will be her 7th chapter, because she's gonna hit her other proactive chapter for her 5th one. So she was in the reactive chapter the last one I wrote. Now she's going to be in her proactive chapter where she has to make this decision. Yeah, she has to make the decision. And then the reactive chapter is when old guy's going to come in and like, okay, cool. I had to say that in my head, and, I had to feel myself saying it because, I'm going to, look at this tape again. Look at the video again, and I'm going to be like, oh, that's what I said. Okay, let me make sure I remember to put that into play, right? But I'm still kind of interested in how I'm going to introduce the big bad guy to Roz, because Roz already has a big bad guy, which is his uncle Jelani, who ain't shit, but he's struggling with loss in a very unhealthy way, and he's taking it out on his nephew. We all know that one adult that was in our lives that just took it out on the kid, right? So he has his big bad guy, and his friend Enzo is very supportive of him. I kind of just dove back into chapter 2. Sorry, like in my head I feel like you guys are with me, but I didn't just say going back into Roz's chapter who the big bad guy is. That's his uncle, right? They had a big old ordeal. So now his proactive chapter, I feel, which would be his chapter. Oh shit, no, I'm writing Roz tonight. God damn it, I got confused. No, I was right. Yeah, I was right, because Fonta's next would be 5 and 7. Roz is 2 and 4. Okay, no. I'm doing it right, man. I'm over here fucking psyching myself out that I had my chapters ordered wrong. No, I was right. So tonight is Roz's chapter. It's gonna have to be a proactive thing that he's doing. He just had this ordeal with his uncle. I'm going to reel in more of the re-election stuff. I'm going to start to mention the registration. So far, Roz's uncle and his friend Enzo are the only ones who know that he's a manifestor, because everyone who is a manifestor has to go through you go to the registration, say what they are, what their powers are, and they're low-key being watched by the government, in a sense, like the FBI, because they have these powers, and the other people, the other people who are the high ups don't trust them, right? Like, they have these powers, we really can't control them. They're emotionally traumatized people. Like what do we do? So I'm introducing this sunseed thing, which is pretty much like an antidepressant, where it's something that the manifestors have to take to dull their senses, which will also, like dull their magic. But it's kind of like they're walking around in a drug-induced haze where everything is numb. Now, mind you, Roz is already, I feel, numb, because he's in a very negative life experience right now with his mom and his dad and his uncle, right? But he has his friend Enzo, who's like his brother, so they're there together. They're in the thicket together, because Enzo lost his mom the same year that Roz lost his mom. So they have that, that camaraderie together, which is sad camaraderie, but they have that. What else? Yeah, I just got to get his proactive chapter going. And you know what? I think since I'm setting more into a routine, and I don't really have the urge to type it out on the laptop, because for right now, I feel like that's just a disconnect. And when I'm writing it by hand, like, it's calming. I feel like I'm more involved. It's weird, but I start to hear the voices in my head where it's like, it's what I feel like Roz would sound like. I also feel like, because I listen to audiobooks too, so I have like this like vague, not prototype, but like how the male characters sound in audiobooks compared to the female characters. So I have like that already programmed in my head, right? So I have this voice that I believe is Roz, what he would sound like, and his mannerisms and his cadence and of how he would talk. And I think that's really interesting that that's starting to happen, and I feel like it's happening fairly soon. But I've been plotting these characters for a while, so I feel like it's finally coming together, and I'm more excited for the later weeks to come, because I do want to continue to write every day. Tell me how you guys are coming along with your work in progress. If you guys are writing out your work in progress compared to typing, because before I typed font to his whole chapter out, and it was cool. But like I said, I wanted to feel that connection, so I started to write it out. And when I tell you, I have been having a ball these last 2 days. We're gonna try to go for 4 days in a row of just doing this chapter and just being in the moment and the feels of it. Like, it's really been helping me. So that is that. Okay, wrapping this up. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, please comment, rate, and subscribe, and I'll be back with another video real soon.